the historicity of Jesus Christ. I'm only coming into it. I only said few things as an introduction. No sensible historian could casually bypass Christ and Christianity. However, many have attempted to discredit Christianity by proving Christ a myth. G.A. Wells, he wrote a book called Did Jesus Exist? Published in 1975. In this book, the author questions the historicity of Jesus Christ. He says there are no conclusive evidences to prove Jesus Christ ever lived or he ever rose again. He used a proposition to prove his point. For 4 propositions to prove his point. First, the epistles of Paul were the early written books of the New Testament. And in those books, Paul never mentioned anything about the birth and life of Jesus Christ. True or false? Paul never mentioned anything about Jesus Christ in his epistles. Boy, if you wanted to, there are literally hundreds of references in the epistles of Paul about Jesus Christ. We'll come to them. Many of them. Many of them. Just a casual reading. Among the details of Christ's life found in the Pauline epistles include the eternality of Christ, Colossians 1:15, the sinlessness of his humanity, Galatians 4:4, Christ's genealogy, Romans 9:5 and 1:3, the betrayal of Jesus by Judah, 1 Corinthians 11:23, details about the Lord's Supper he established, 1 Corinthians 11:23, the fact that it was the Romans who crucified Christ, Philippians 2:8 and 1 Corinthians 1:23, Galatians 3:13, 4:14, the point Jews played in the crucifixion of Christ, 1 Thessalonians 2:15, the resurrection on the third day, 1 Corinthians 15:4, the details on the apostles of Christ, Galatians 2:9, the fact that Peter was a married man, 1 Corinthians 9:5, the brothers of Jesus Christ, 1 Corinthians 15:5 and 9:5, Galatians 1:18 and 19, on the teachings of Christ, 1 Corinthians 7:10, 9:14, 1 Corinthians, all there are hundreds of references in the New Testament. Yet this man has said that in the writings of Paul there was no mention about Jesus Christ's life or ministry. I mean, how can people be dishonest? That's it. You need to be intellectual honesty there. Spiritual dishonesty could be there, but intellectual dishonesty is something there. You read a book and you have to say what is in the book, but these people have said it. So that the epistles of Paul were the early written books of the New Testament, and in those books Paul never mentioned anything about the life of Christ. Second proposition he made is in other epistles and the pastoral epistles, mention of Jesus' birth and life in Palestine was mentioned. Paul's doesn't have, but others have. Well, others have, Paul's also have. I have read many of those Paul's. Third said an attempt is seen to make Jesus Christ a historical person in some of the apocryphal writings written after the New Testament. Example, he quotes the writings of Ignatius. One thing I have to say that whether it is apocryphal writings or canonical writings, anybody who has written, they have written a lot about Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ is a historical reality. Which fool will sit down to write on somebody who never existed? It is in the Gospels we see the efforts to make Jesus Christ a historical person. Gospels were written from AD 70 to 120, according to him. But Gospels were written from 70 to probably 98 AD. It is in the last Gospel, John, which was written later than the other three, that we see a deliberate attempt to make Jesus the incarnate Logos. Many other books similar to what Wells have written are made. In those books we could see a deliberate but unsuccessful attempt to make the historical Christ a non-historical person. Now, to discredit a proposition of Wells, it is simply enough to show the following of Wells' arguments. It is absolute absurdity for him to make the claim that in Paul's epistles there were no reference to the historicity of Jesus Christ. Now I have mentioned all those. Paul preached the Lord Jesus Christ, who was born as the seed of David, who died and rose again. Paul centered his message on the cross of Christ. Paul prided in the cross. He said, God forbid that I should boast except in the cross of Jesus Christ. 1 Corinthians 1:23, 2:2, 15:11 to 15, Galatians 6:14, 1 Corinthians 9:15, Galatians 1:18, 19, etc. Paul preached a Christ who not only was born and lived, but who was crucified, buried, and rose again. Paul even made references to James, the brother of Jesus Christ, and Peter, the disciple of Jesus Christ. People can just make a lying statement, The argument of Wells that there are no reference to Jesus Christ in other non-Pauline canonical books is totally wrong. Jesus Christ came in the flesh is part of the apostolic faith and confession. There is something called apostolic faith, the Didache. Didache means the teachings of the 12, which is not a canonical writing. It was written 112 AD. But in that one, how many references to Jesus Christ? So for somebody to say this sort of statements in the epistles of Peter and John, this fact is repeatedly pointed out. John wrote about the incarnated Word, whom he touched, heard and seen. 1 Peter 1:20, 21, 2:21, 22, 1 John 1:1 to 4, 4:3. John's epistle begins with that which was, we have seen, we have heard, our hands have touched concerning Jesus Christ, concerning life, John says, I have touched him, I felt him, sat with him, slept with him, ate with him. For 3 years these people were. Another argument put forward in the 19th century is that the Gospels were not written with a view that they be treated as historical records. Well, if that helps in any way, it helps only the Gospels. If the Gospel writers did not write it to make a historical record, but still became a historical record, that adds only to its credibility. They have written a piece of literature just like that, but everybody accepts it as historical. Why? Because everything said is, historical. It is just like Mahatma Gandhi's son or wife has written something about Gandhi. They never meant it to say anything, but a family, diary or something, but that diary has become a valuable source for the study of Mahatma Gandhi. Why? Because it is written by Mahatma Gandhi's wife or children. The same way Gandhi, Jesus Christ's disciples who walked with him, talked with him, who were taught and discipled for 3 years, they have penned down things about Jesus Christ, never meant to make it historical records. But the fact that because they are written by eyewitnesses, people who lived with Jesus Christ, they are historical records. So what is history? What is history? So these people will say things that have no sense. They were written simply to explain the faith of the early community of believers. Whether their faith was real or historical was not a point the gospel writers considered. In another sense, the gospels are explanations of a people's faith and not historical narrations of a person. Well, that makes it all the more. When you wanted to make a historical record, something that is not history, how carefully you will write. When you don't have such intentions of making it anything, then you are to write it very casually. And if the casualty has become very serious historical records, what would have happened if these apostles made it a point that they wanted to make it, a historical record about the Jesus whom they knew? This is, very interesting talking with some of these people, Of course, they will not. Somebody once came to me, they wanted to argue and prove that Jesus Christ never existed. And I said, what are your credibility and to prove this point? He said, Idamaru has written a book. I said, 2000 years before Idamaru was born, 27 books were written about Jesus Christ. What will you say about it? See that? If you have more faith in Edinburgh than in Matthew, Mark, Luke and John and in Jesus Christ himself, you will believe in Edinburgh. Yeah. I say you can believe a lie, but you cannot make a truth a lie by you are not believing it. No, cannot. The Gospels are records, historical records of the life of Jesus Christ. Whether a person like Jesus Christ actually lived or not, it's never debated. It never needed to be debated until these people came. This person, they say, may have been historical or mythological. Rudolf Bultmann, great brain, great mind, a German man, 1884 to 1976. A German theologian was the main exponent of this view. As evidence to corroborate his view, Bultmann has pointed out the following facts. Number one, Gospels never present a complete biography of Jesus Christ. That's very correct. You will accept Mahatma Gandhi's historicity only if you get a complete biography. If a biographer has left some 10 years of events, therefore you will say that. If one of your cow was killed by a tiger and the tiger has taken away the head of it, you will never admit a cow was killed until you get all the parts. What kind of an argument that will be? Ridiculous argument, aren't they? So, say that they did not give us a complete biography. Yes, that's very true. They did not give us. Many and important facts of Christ's life are omitted, like what happened to Jesus Christ. The first 12 years, we see him born, and then the next record we see he is in the temple, right at the age of 12. We see him at the age of 12, and then next we see him in Jordan, ready to be baptized by John the Baptist. So what happened in between? Anyway, you are not going to say that Jesus Christ did not live from birth to 12 and Jesus Christ did not live from 12 to 30. If Jesus Christ appeared at the age 12, it proves that Jesus was a person living for the last 12 years. If Jesus appeared at the age of 30, then that's a proof that Jesus was living for 12 to 30 years. Your question is not that whether Jesus Christ is historical. Now you can say that we don't know what Jesus was doing. Well, maybe Jesus never wanted you to know what he was doing. Or maybe that was not important, because what Jesus Christ has done for 30 years is not important. Jesus Christ came to save the humanity from sin. So his sacrifice is the most important and his teachings are the most important. That is given in detail. Anybody write biography, they don't give anything, everything. There are many biographies of Dr. Radhakrishnan written. A few years back, one of his sons have written a biography and some revealed some discomforting facts. That Dr. Radhakrishnan had a relationship with a concubine. All his life he was cheating in addition to his wife. But none of the other biographers have mentioned it. Therefore, we reject all that biography. His son has revealed this fact. That's the way, Matthew was writing, what was Matthew's intention? Matthew was writing the biography of Jesus Christ, presenting him as the king of the Jews. So he has collected only relevant factors that are relevant for a king. Mark was writing Jesus Christ, presenting Jesus Christ as the faithful servant of Jehovah. Biography of a servant, the genealogy of a servant is not very important, is it? You had ever in your home servants? You know who was the great-great-grandpa of that servant? Genealogy of a servant is not important. So Mark did not even make mention. What is important about a servant? What the servant is doing. So Mark immediately started with the Jesus Christ, went out his work. John was presenting Jesus as the Son of God, a deity. Does God have a genealogy? God has a mother and father? So John does not make any mention about genealogy. He started out, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God and the Word was God. So if somebody says that I have read the biography of the Gospel of John, and I can believe that John did not say a thing about the father, mother and anything about Jesus Christ. Why? The purpose? The purpose of the author? There is something like that. If my son is going to write my biography, which he is not going to do, because he doesn't have a famous father, that's the reason. But if he is to write, he will be writing from the point of view of a son-father relationship, right? But if my wife sitting there going to write my biography, many things my son mentioning will not be there. In my son's biography, there will be occasions when I spank him so heavily and it was unreasonable for dad to spank me like that, But my wife will not be saying all those things. She will be saying that maybe the husband was unreasonable when he said, the curry had too much salt when it didn't have, something like that. See, the thing is, what my wife will write is from a wife's point of view, my son. If one of the servants is going to write a biography, what you can expect in that one? Entirely different. But all of them is true, but it's from their perspective. It's their perspective. The perspective is very important. What perspective you are going to go and write. So that's what the Gospels are. Real records written from different perspectives. So Bultmann was wrong, and he happened to be a professor of theology. He must have this much, this much common sense. But sometimes these great people don't have common sense. You know that? They are great because they don't have common sense. If they have common sense, they will be among the common people. Common sense belongs to what? Common people, right? Great people should have great sense, but there is no English phrase like a great sense. So, so Bultmann missed that. So Gospels were written, with the perspective, with the purpose. Many stories and events added to the Gospels which actually did not take place during Christ's time, but later. That's what Bultmann said. And then he pointed out John chapter 8. In John chapter 8, the story of the woman caught in adultery. The woman was brought to Jesus Christ. It is not in 3 Gospels. It's only in John's Gospel chapter 8. And everybody says John's Gospel chapter 8 was added. So it's an interpolation. Well, suppose, for example, John chapter 8 is an interpolation, which I strongly believe it is not, and I can prove it is not. But suppose it is an interpolation. That does not mean the Gospel of John is not historical reliability. It only means that in John's Gospel there is one interpolation. That's all. What it means. Suppose you cooked rice and one plate rice was given to somebody, and they have the first handful of rice put in there was a stone. So will you say that this plate is not rice, it's stone? Or you say that this is our rice, but it happened to have one small stone. It does not credit the fact that the plate contains rice. Nobody will ask the mother, did you cook stone today or rice today? Why, son, you ask that question? Because I got a stone. So what do you think? You count all the rice in your plate, count all the stone, and then ask me that question, Mom, you cooked rice or stone today? So if somebody wants to say that one interpolation has come, you are going to discredit the whole historicity of Jesus Christ and what John has written. That shows you have a bias, right? That shows you have a bias. People with bias always do that. Even if you answer all their questions and everything is correct, if somehow you don't want to accept him, then what will you do? Discredit. That's what people do. So, Bultmann doesn't want to accept Jesus Christ. So he said that no, because John 8 is not. John 8 is true account, not a interpolation. Now, on a clear examination of the above noted arguments, the whole arguments will fall apart. None of the writers of the gospel give any indication that they ever purposed to write an exhaustive biography of Jesus Christ. Did they ever say that this biography is exhaustive? Never. Luke, in his introduction to the gospel, his gospel, clearly stated his intention of writing the gospel. Somebody read Luke chapter 1, 1 to 4. What was his intention? Verse 4 is sufficient. There, for save the time, I will read. There he says, that you might know the certainty of the things wherein thou hast been instructed. He says, I am writing this gospel because you have heard many things about Jesus Christ. I am writing these things so that you might know the certainty of those things which you have heard about Jesus. So Luke wrote with a goal in mind. What was that goal? The man Theophilus, to whom Luke was writing the gospel, he has heard many things about Jesus Christ, or may have asked Luke, hey, these days I hear people preaching about a Jesus Christ who lived in Palestine. You know anything about him? You are a historian? Yes, Luke said, I'm a historian, I studied about this. So he wrote about it. I am writing this only for one purpose, that you may know the certainty, the absoluteness of, the reliability of, the historicity of the person Jesus Christ about whom you have heard. Luke is not saying I am going to present you every detail for 33 years. That was not his intention. Actually, John said that in John's Gospel chapter 20. Closing that Gospel, what did John say? If all the miracles and things Jesus have taught and did, if someone has to write that this is not going to contain even in the world, that's an exaggeration, hyperbole, but yet what does that mean that? There is so much. But he said, I have picked up these and written to you that you may believe Jesus is the Son of God. I have written enough to you to believe that Jesus is the Son of God. So these writers were writing with a purpose. So when people generally attack, they say the card in Malayalam. That means you just shooting random. If it hits, let it hit. No, they're not going to get any venison by hitting like that. So a clear examination of these Gospels will very clearly tell us that the writers had an intent in writing. They were not writing random or carelessly. They picked up their theme about Jesus Christ and they wanted to present that Jesus they understood, or the people should understand. John's Gospel was the last Gospel. Mark's Gospel is said to be the first Gospel. Maybe, may not be. But in Mark's Gospel, he presented Jesus Christ as servant of Jehovah. Matthew's Gospel, he wanted to present it to the Jewish people. The Jewish people were waiting for the Messiah to come. And Matthew knew this is a Messiah, but the Jewish people did not accept him, they crucified him. So Matthew wanted to prove to them that the Jesus whom you crucified is the Messiah who was promised in the Old Testament. So he has picked up many Old Testament quotations and many references, and he has shown them why Jesus is the Messiah. Matthew was not interested to show to them that Jesus was a faithful servant. That was not his intention. And Luke, when he has written, he wanted to present to the world. Luke was not writing to the Jewish people. He was writing to one person specifically, Theophilus, and then to the whole Roman world, the pagan world. And he wanted to tell the pagan world that Jesus Christ is the Savior of the world. He is the Savior of the world, the perfect man, the sinless man. And he had done a superb job. He has picked up events that shows very clearly. So all these apostles, they have written very carefully. Each of the gospel writer has his own purpose. Only when we put all the four gospels together, we have a complete picture of the life of Jesus Christ. Besides, perfection and trustworthiness are not the same thing, are they? Perfection and trustworthiness are the same thing? No, they are entirely different things. Perfection shows the quality of the work. That's what the perfection shows. Trustworthiness shows the genuineness of the work. Genuineness of it. You have bought 3 meters of cloth and taken to a tailor and you wanted some shirt to be made. You wanted to pick up the shirt. 2 questions have come to your mind. One is the perfection of the workmanship, and you have looked and said, hey, this collar didn't fit very well, you see that, and you said that the buttons were not right, see the distance between this and this and this, you did a careless job, the perfect. That's about the perfection. But what about the trustworthiness? Is it the same cloth that I gave you? That's a different thing. To prove the trustworthiness, usually they will cut a small piece from the corner and staple it with the receipt, right? So that you can prove. So perfection and trustworthiness are entirely different things. The same way, the trustworthiness of Matthew is there, that is this the same Jesus that we are talking about? Yes, it's the same Jesus. But perfection, is your work perfect? I never intend to be perfect. I only wanted to present a part of Jesus' biography. That was not my intention. I never intend to make a perfect biography. The two are different. Always it is different. If you are a person who will accept only perfect things as genuine things, you have a problem. Real problem. Because a lot of genuine things are not perfect things. Sometimes it's the counterfeit things that are more perfect than genuine things. വ്യാജന്മാര് സാധനം ഉണ്ടാക്കുമ്പോൾ കുറേ കൂടെ സൂക്ഷിച്ചാണ് ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നല്ലേ? Yeah. Even our Reserve Bank had the problem of some counterfeit note. They said they know it is counterfeit, there is no way they can reject it because it's more perfect than the note we printed. What will you do? That's true. In many cases it's true. It's very true, You go to places like Kundankulam, you know where Kundankulam is. It's a market for, where here in Punjab I think is the equivalent. Somebody walked into Kundankulam market and they said that, can I get a change for a 13 rupee note? 13 rupee note. Okay, that's very different, right? So he said, oh sure. So gave 2 6 and 1 3. In Kundankulam everything is available. So usually perfect things are, the counterfeit things are perfect. They make it very, very perfect. Real things they don't make that much effort because they have no doubt that this is genuine and all. So that's true about this one. So that argument again is what I say is not a correct argument. There are those who say that we cannot and would not take at face value what the evangelists have written because their personal worship and religious affinity have clouded their records. Oh, that's another argument. Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, they worshipped Jesus Christ. So they were worshippers of Jesus Christ. And therefore you cannot trust everything they say. So biographies have to be written by enemies only for its trustworthiness. So any biography written from Pakistan of our Prime Minister will be not genuine. People make, so the biography written by a son of his father is not reliable because the son loves the father. So by Mahatma Gandhi's best reliable biography will be written by Godse. People make statements that they don't think through. The question they have to ask, why did Mark, Luke and John all worship Jesus Christ? They walked with this man for 3 years. But why did they worship? I have people walking with me for many years, never they worship me. Often they are, instead of worshipping, they are worshipping. That's because they did not see me a man who is worthy to be worshipped. They saw me as an imperfect man with all the imperfections of any other human beings. So they decided that yes, he is a good man, but he cannot be